meaning that there is no outside shower, there is no outside plumbing that's on the pressurized system, it can be considered a four-season camper van. With respect to draining the black and the gray tank, or in the Rebels case, the cassette toilet, we do actually have heated drainage on each the Travado and the Bolt, which allows you to drain those in sub-freezing climates. Now, they're not pressurized, so you don't have to worry about them freezing and expanding.
We had a great question from Phil, who wants to know, how do these vans come from ProMaster, from Mercedes-Benz, and are they coming to all OEMs the same way? And what is Winnebago doing to take them a step further in terms of that four-season capability?
You bet.
Is it different?
Yeah, great question. And as we come to know in our light-duty passenger cars and trucks that we use, they're very well insulated, obviously, because we travel in freezing climates. When the camper van itself comes from Mercedes-Benz or Ram ProMaster, it will come as a complete shell. The shell meaning that literally if you look at the sidewall or the rear of the van, there's exposed sheet metal. So there's nothing between the usable area and the outside except for sheet metal. So Winnebago adds all of the automotive style insulation and then also builds the interior components of those walls. Now, with Winnebago Industries being an accredited manufacturer with Mercedes-Benz and also with Ram ProMaster, they'll have the opportunity to place windows really wherever they want. By contrast, other manufacturers such as Thor, that is not an accredited manufacturer, has to use the windows that are provided by Ram ProMaster, thus the reason why you see in some of our competitive videos, they don't actually open. How'd I do on that?
Really well, and that insulation that Winnebago is installing is actually a thick, kind of molded, cut out. It's not bat foam insulation.
It's not a bat foam insulation that will settle or sag over time. It literally is CNC routed out of EPS foam that is automotive style insulation that perfectly fits the laser routed components from the sheet metal from Ram ProMaster or from Mercedes-Benz. So that's a really good point.
So number 2 question from our service department, what's that beeping noise, Ron?
What is that beeping noise? So I'm guessing that the question stems from the fact that there is a very high-pitched audible alert, specifically to the Travado, because that's our volume leader, with us being the largest dealer in North America. And there's 2 different causes for that. One could be that the seat is swiveled, meaning that it's not in its north-south position for travel, which it needs to be in for the safety components. Because one of the questions we used to get asked when swivel seats first came into favor was, can I leave them swiveled in transit? And for safety reasons, you cannot. So the first audio alert would be if the seat is swiveled. The second would be if the cab window blinds are not fully stowed in the lower position, because obviously if they come up, they can impair your vision, and so there's an alert for that.
Okay.
Is that what they were alluding to?
I think so.
Good.
That was their answer too, so you passed.
Okay.
Number 3 is, why is my lithium pack not charging?
So in terms of like today's climate, when it is cold, there's a couple of things that are unique to lithium. Lithium does not like to be cold when it's charged. So with respect to a lithium Travado or a lithium Bolt, the shutdown temp is actually 37 degrees. So what ends up happening is now all of the Volta systems have heat pads for the actual NMC pack itself. And so what ends up happening is once temperature drops to 41 degrees around that pack, it'll automatically kick on, and then it will shut itself off at 46. So if your lithium system was too cold to begin charging, so it was at that 37 degree range, it will actually ramp it up to 43 degrees and then start the charging cycle. What's also new is in the state of charge gauge, which is really kind of your master on-off switch with a Volta-powered lithium B-van. It now actually turns blue to let you know that it's too cold to take a charge. How'd I do there?
Really well. So we had an email that came in today from George, who couldn't make the webcast but is going to watch it later. He has a new Revel, and he's just wondering if there's any way to rewire so that the shore power feeds the coach battery as well as the house battery, or somehow get the entertainment system to run off the house battery.
Okay, so I'm going to cover this from a couple of perspectives. When the coach is plugged in, your RV batteries, so in this case with the Revel, those 3 maintenance-free absorbed glass mat batteries are charging off of the converter. The converter is the appliance that actually takes electricity and converts it and charges the battery. So it'll always be charging the house batteries when you're plugged into Shoreline Power. With respect to the chassis battery from Mercedes-Benz, however, that's really an independent system. And so what will end up happening is you have battery rundown protection, just like you do in your personal car and truck right now, that if you leave the key on, or if you you're inside the vehicle and you turn the vehicle off, after a certain amount of time, depending upon the manufacturer, it'll turn off the 12-volt system. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, what we'd like to be able to do is continue to be able to use the chassis-supplied entertainment center while I'm using the coach inside. So one solution for that would be an accessory that we install on a lot of Mercedes-based Sprinter vans that are converted into RVs from Winnebago, would be an appliance called a trickle start. And what a trickle start does is when you're plugged into Shoreline Power, it will charge both your house battery and your engine battery. So then you could actually leave that on and you would be charging the chassis battery. We can install that in Mercedes-based camper vans as well as Mercedes-based Class Cs, so such as the Winnebago View and the Winnebago Navion. The only time that we cannot would be if the coach has a lithium-based 12-volt system for the coach itself. So if it's a Winnebago View or Navion and it has the Xantrec Smart Lithium, we can't install a trickle start, nor can we in the lithium-powered Winnebago Bolt. A really good workaround for that, though, is what most people do in a Revel, is they will purchase a very inexpensive, very high-quality sound bar or some type of a speaker that can be used in the Ramtrack system. You can then pair that up to your smartphone or tablet, and you can pick up a Bose wireless soundbar right now for $199, and the audio is just incredible. And you can pair that up to your smartphone or tablet. So then you could listen to all those audio apps. If you're a SiriusXM subscriber now, the app is free with a paid subscription, so if you have it in another vehicle. So some RVers will actually have SiriusXM in their car, and then they'll just use the app inside their RV.
In terms of just some comparison across the different models that Winnebago offers, what has the best ground clearance?
So ground clearance in terms of the Mercedes-based lineup is approximately 8 inches, and with the Travato, it's 7 inches. So it's kind of a push, 7 to 8 inches. But one thing we always cover a lot, we cover this in our walk-around videos, our educational orientation videos. We've covered this in previous webcasts. Winnebago intentionally mounts some of those lower components, such as your drainage system, right near the rear axle, so that as you change grade and that rear axle absorbs that jounce, your drainage system will actually increase in height as well. So it's intentionally mounted that way. It looks low, but we've never had an issue with one coming off.
Any plans for a four-wheel drive Travato?
Boy, I would hope so, but not to my knowledge.
And what is four-wheel drive offered in?
So four-wheel drive, great question. Obviously the Winnebago Revel. The Winnebago Bolt is available in two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive as well, all-wheel drive.
So we have a lot of questions between the Bolt and Era.
Okay.
Surrounding, outside of lithium, what are the differences and why is the Bolt such a higher price tag?
Sure. So the primary difference is what you just touched on, Heidi, lithium powered. So the Bolt does have the Volta Power Systems automotive NMC grade lithium pack, 11,600 watt hours of energy, whereas a Winnebago Era will have a Cummins Onan LP generator. Since it is diesel powered, obviously we would need to use either a diesel gen or an LP gen, and for size constraints, the only one that's built right now is a Cummins Onan LP 2500 watt generator. So that's probably the biggest difference when it comes to cost. Both are now built on the VS30 Mercedes-Benz chassis, but one of the significant differences, and not necessarily in cost, but in terms of size, is this is on the 170-inch wheelbase chassis. They both are, but the Bolt is built with this amount of overhang, and then the Era is built on the extended overhang chassis from Mercedes-Benz. So the length in the Era is a little bit longer, but it is the same running gear, the same wheelbase. It's just the extended overhang chassis that's available.
A question just on passengers. What is the best if I have multiple passengers?
In terms of ensuring that every person had a safety belt, which again, a reminder, anyone behind the B pillar here does not have to be fully safety belted in. But the Winnebago Travato, both floor plans have 4 safety belts, and depending upon the floor plan, the Bolt will have up to 7.
A couple of questions from our website. Bill is wondering, what is located under the bench seat on a 59G?
Great question. And in this 59G that we have here in the studio, this is a non-lithium Travato. So that's actually where the freshwater tank is. If you're looking at a 59GL, which is the lithium model, it would house some of the Volta components, and the primary component there is that 3600 watt pure sine wave inverter.
Fred on our website is wondering, when will we see an Era on the new Mercedes-Benz chassis?
Very, very soon. They're in production right now. They just haven't started to ship, and it'll be very, very soon. It'll be primarily the exact same vehicle that you saw in previous generations of the Era in terms of fit, finish, amenities, options, standard specifications, but it will be on the Mercedes-Benz VS30 chassis. Still available in 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive.
Do you have any feeling about what our experience is with guests on their homeowner association rules and what their experience has been?
Overall, pretty favorable. I mean, it's kind of a loaded question because you can find the HOA president that's full of testosterone or estrogen and has kind of made that their career to run the HOA. But with overall, the sense is that we see them all with the graphics delete, so they look primarily just like a van. We typically then also encourage people to opt out of the cargo rack and ladder, just because that certainly looks RV-ish. But other than that, probably the biggest thing that people see then is the air conditioner. That was a really loaded question.
I know. I always start laughing when I start something like that. You have to bring a cookie plate to the meeting or something.
Yeah, you know, it also, yeah, you have to grease the board. But you know, in some regards, we've seen people try to stay with more of a monotone, lighter color that blends in. So we see a lot of the silvers and the granites being used in HOAs, homeowners association.
When we're talking about lithium models with the Travato and the Bolt, Travato 59GL, 59KL, can you talk about the need for the auto start?
Sure. So auto start is only available in the ProMaster version of the lithium powered camper vans. And that's primarily because the auto start feature, Mercedes-Benz diesels don't like to be idled because of the strict EPA emission requirements. There's a particulate filter in there that does have to do a regen to burn off some of the emission components. And what we don't want to do is clog that particulate filter. So right now, auto start is only available in the Travato series. With the 59GL and 59KL, keep in mind that NMC pack, the lithium Volta pack, is 8,700 watt hours. So when Winnebago designed the Mercedes-based Bolt, knowing that we couldn't use auto start, added the fourth cell from Volta Power Systems. So the Winnebago Bolt actually brings you up to 11,600 watt hours. And our experience has been that that is generally more than adequate for people in terms of running their air conditioner, because that's the #1 question that we get is, how long can I run my air conditioner? So increasing to that 11,600 watt hour energy pack really provides 25% more runtime. And most of our guests, depending upon that call that you have on the air conditioner, a pretty good rule of thumb is about 8 to 12 hours of air conditioning runtime. Now, keep in mind there's a couple of things that have really increased that runtime. First is all of that automotive insulation that we talked about. So, we have R values in the sidewalls that are, close to 50% higher than a traditional Class A or a Class C. So you've got an R value of 10 in the sidewalls. So there's a lot of insulation in there that provides a great thermal break, but then also it's quiet. It's very acoustically quiet. The new Coleman Mach 10 NDQ, or non-ducted quiet, is also thermostatically controlled now. So it's not continuously running. So when you have 24 feet or 21 feet that you're trying to cool, you have somewhat of a constrained space. I mean, it's a camper van, but now you have a thermostatically controlled air conditioning system that can really minimize the amount of runtime. You're like, wow, that was a long-winded answer.
That was a good answer. Rodney has a good question on our Facebook page. What's the difference between watt hours of power and actual hours of power with regard to that pure energy system?
So, I mean, a pretty good rule of thumb is if we're getting 8 to 12 hours out of 11,600, you can expect usually a max of about 8 on an 8,700 watt hour system. And again, that's primarily with the use of the air conditioning system. If you're not using the air conditioning system, or if you're just using it on a real limited basis, I mean, it could be days, it could be weeks, because that 12-volt system uses such little draw on an automotive-grade lithium system. Plus, you always have the solar that's replenishing the pack, although that's not as high of a recharging source as the alternator off the engine, but it certainly helps.
From our website, again, Bill's wondering, back to the 59G, what is under that bench seat at the table?
In the dinette. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, under the other one.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, okay. So, it's a good question. I'm not gonna say you stumped me, but I'm just gonna verify. Yeah, so that's actually where your Truma system's located. I had to cheat and look at the cold air intake and the diffuser. I'm not gonna lie.
JW on our website, any news on Mercedes-Benz producing a gas version?
It's out. Our expectation is that it probably will not be used in the RV industry, primarily because of the high demand for fuel efficiency and high demand for torque or power, which that diesel engine provides so much of. Because the next question is going to be when is the EV version coming out? Because it's just rolling off the line as well. But the cruising range on those is so small compared to what RVers are using this for. I know Winnebago is doing a great job of aligning some electrical vehicle applications for the commercial segment, but they're primarily just used around town, so to speak. And so with an RV, especially a camper van that people are putting a lot of miles on and really going into places never seen before, I wouldn't expect any EV applications until that range really extends.
Bella on our website asks, will there be any Class Bs coming out that are gas, comparing to my favorite, the Rialta?
So the closest would be the Travato. We also have the new Solus coming out next month, which has really taken off and has been very, very successful. In fact, we have quite a few already retail sold sight unseen. That will be coming out next month, and it will be actually very similar. It's a little bit shorter than what this Travato is, but it does have the overhead studio loft bed to expand that sleeping capacity.
Fred is asking, will the new Eras have insulation similar to the Bolt?
You bet. You bet.
Could you walk through the different levels of sumo springs?
Sure. So the Travato now, standard as part of the mid-year running line changes, include the sumo springs. They're actually color-coded, and we use the black sumo springs up front and the yellow sumo springs to the rear. And those are a very easy retrofit. So if you have a Travato right now, or you're looking at one that doesn't have all the mid-year running line change enhancements, we can add that. It's a very simple add to add those sumo springs front and rear. So again, it's yellow in the back and black in the front.
Just comparing the Mercedes-Benz chassis that we offer on the Revel and the Bolt, why does the Bolt have electric seats and the Revel doesn't?
It's actually just an option selection that Winnebago made. So, typically with the Bolt, it's probably not going to be as as ruggedly used outdoors. And so, some of the creature comforts that weren't necessarily required by that type of a buyer, I think it was just an option selection by Winnebago.
On our YouTube channel, there's some questions about the Solus, kind of what time frame will be.
Yeah. So we expect to have our first Solus towards the end of January. It is already pre-sold. We have quite a few that we've ordered though, so I mean it'll be available. We'll then launch our real in-depth, detailed walkthrough videos and educational orientation videos. The ones that we have right now simply were show footage videos, but we do have a great 20-minute walkthrough video on the Solus that is live right now.
One question we have is how easy is it to operate the pop top, high top, and what are we calling it on the Solus?
Yeah, so I mean, I call it an overhead studio loft. Some people will call it a pop top. It's a European component that comes over. Winnebago then cuts out of the roof of the, let me go this way, of Ram ProMaster chassis. Very, very easy to use. It's on the same type of a gas strut mechanism that we use on walk-around queen beds. So even a walk-around king or a walk-around queen that you can elevate up, it very simply just glides up with a gentle lift. And then pulling it down is very, very simple as well. The only thing, and it kind of goes back to Heidi and I's heritage, you have to be careful that you at least have a window crack because you don't want to have that suction effect where you're really pulling against compressed air. So it really is fluid and very easy to use.
Any air conditioning plans on the Solus?
Not to my knowledge.
On our website, Fred is wondering, will the Eras have the same Mercedes-Benz chassis options as the Bolt?
Yes, they will. You bet. Same amenities and with respect to the VS30 chassis. All the safety enhancements, the creature comforts that were designed after that Mercedes S-Class, all those same components. Good question.
When you have an external LP Quick Connect, do I just hook up my grill or what do I need?
Yeah, so for example, with a gas grill quick connect that you can see, that does tie into the main LP system. You very simply do connect it. The only thing that we always advise our guests, and we get a lot of questions about this, is why is my flame so low? And the reason for that is when you use a gas grill and connect it to an RV, you want to remove the regulator that's on the gas grill, because RVs by nature already have an LP pressure regulator built into them. And so if you add another one, then you're kind of competing and drawing down a lot of that LP pressure. So that's really the only thing you have to do is remove the LP regulator from the gas grill.
Rob on our YouTube channel is just wondering if you can use Sumo springs on the Bolt.
You can. They make them for the Mercedes application as well. We haven't done a lot of chassis enhancements to the Bolt at all. We have a lot that are on the road, and the feedback that I have personally from driving the Bolt, and then also from our guests that are using the Bolt right now, is that it is the quietest, most fluid, most comfortable driving vehicle that they've ever driven. And I can attest to that. It is extremely quiet, both inside and outside with the diesel engine. And with the steering components that are in there, it's so effortless to turn that steering wheel in a Winnebago Bolt with the VS30 chassis. And then with all the safety enhancements that will gently nudge you between the yellow and white lines, it is just a dream to drive.
And I think from Winnebago's perspective, they really believe it's almost like a best ideas vehicle.
Yeah.
Within their B-Van lineup, they were able to build something and put all of the best experience components that they've
Absolutely.
had.
I mean, it is just a dream to drive. It's so perfectly fluid and quiet. And the comments where the VS30 chassis was designed after the S-Class in the front are all very, very accurate.
Bill is wondering, can you install a muffler on the generator in a Travato, and does that help?
Great questions today. Absolutely we can. And what you may actually search for in terms of doing any research on that is that's really what's kind of called a resonator. And some of the brands that are out there are Genturi. And what it does is it's like you mentioned, Bill, it's a muffler for the generator. And they do help. They do help. They're not going to help with respect to the rumbling on the inside. And I shouldn't use the word rumbling because it's not excessive because it's been such a successful vehicle for over 5 years. It's not going to help with a lot of the interior noise. It's really with the muffling on the outside.
Mark on our channel is wondering if the driver's seat on the Travado moves up and down manually since it doesn't have electric seats and no tilt wheel.
So the seat in the Travado can be elevated in terms of bringing it tilting forward and tilting back, but not straight up and down, unless I'm incorrect about that.
I think that's right.
Okay. But that's correct. There are no power seats in the ProMaster chassis.
How would you say the Bolt four-wheel drive compares to the Revel four-wheel drive performance-wise?
Very, very similar. I mean, with it being a 170-inch wheelbase chassis and with it having dual rear wheels, we see more of the Bolts being used from our guests that are on the road that have four-wheel drive in northern climates or the wooded climates, but not necessarily the mountainous terrain that we see some just stunning pictures from our Revel guests. So certainly in four-wheel drive conditions, but maybe just not as rugged because of the extended wheelbase and the dual rear wheels. Was there something else you wanted me to touch on?
Nope.
Okay.
AC is wondering if the Bolt can be ordered with a generator.
The Winnebago Bolt cannot be ordered with a generator. And with 11,600 watt hours of energy, I don't mean to be offensive when I say this, but I'm not sure why you would want to, unless you're looking for just real extended time. And then what I would probably recommend we do is increase the solar recharge. I mean, you could always use a portable gen, but I don't think there's room, and I'm not really sure the benefit of it. And I say that with all due respect.
So speaking of solar, how much solar have we seen added, and at what point is it ineffective?
Well, I mean, it's effective all the way up until the size of the solar controller, and in most cases, it's between 450 and 575 watts. But you run out of real estate, and so typically we see going from 200 or 230 watts, which is standard. We have typically added between 80 to 110 on the roof, but then remember you've got the quick port access that you can add portable panels to. And we have 170 watt panels. So that pretty much maxes out your solar controller. Typically, we don't see, as a pretty good rule of thumb, help me out here, Heidi, I don't think we typically see most RVers that are in B vans and C-Class, Class C RVs, typically much up over 300 watts. Typically,
I think that covers the majority of owners,
Yeah.
but there are always some exceptions to that who are doing more extreme lengths of time.
Wow, great questions today. This is fun.
JW is wondering, what's the best solution for Wi-Fi on a National Parks Travado?
In my personal opinion, it's a WineGuard Connect 2.0. And the reason for that is because it provides both Wi-Fi and cellular. And just make certain that if you're Verizon, that you go with a WineGuard Connect 2.0 and not a WineGuard to go, because those are AT&T only, and they also require you to purchase their AT&T data. Whereas with a WineGuard Connect 2.0, you get the best of both worlds. You get Wi-Fi boosting, you get cellular boosting, and if you want to just leave it as a dedicated Wi-Fi provision or as a dedicated hotspot, you can get a SIM card from Verizon or AT&T and just add it as another device to your account and then tie into your same unlimited data.
Boom!
I am such a geek.
Between a National Parks Travado and a Bolt, are the Volta lithium systems different?
The only thing that would be different is auto start.
But the size,
The size
capacity.
is the same. They're both 4-module Volta power systems with 11,600 watt hours of energy. And again, just to reiterate that so you don't have to rewind, that would be the Winnebago Bolt or the National Parks Foundation limited edition model of the lithium-based Winnebago Travado, so the 59GL and the 59KLs. So they built 100 of those midsummer. They came out with another 100 pack. We actually purchased 35% of those, so we picked up 35 of those, and I think we have 1 or 2 GLs left and a handful of KLs left.
On the Revel, can I sleep with the bed halfway up on the Revel?
Yeah, you can, and that's a good question. We get it a lot because as people change their cargo, if they have high-end bicycles or things that they want to leave inside, you certainly can. You can use it in any position, actually.
AC is wondering, can the batteries be charged while the Bolt is parked, or do you need to drive it for it to charge?
You really should drive it because, again, that's a Mercedes-based vehicle, so they don't like to be idled in low idle mode. So you'd primarily want to use solar if you don't have an opportunity for being plugged in or driving, which is probably, is that the same guest that asked the question on the generator?
Yes.
Now I'm kind of picking up on that. So I'm guessing that if that was a situation where you were going to be somewhere long-term and it was very, very warm and you needed to use your your air conditioning for an extended amount of time and the solar couldn't keep up with the replenishing, you'd probably want to use a portable generator, I would think.
How does grade braking work on the Bolt?
So with any vehicle, this being the 7G 7-speed transmission, it uses the power of the transmission to assist in your braking. And what that does is it keeps your brakes nice and cool and it extends the life of your brakes. So it uses the power of that high quality transmission, which now has a 5-year, 100,000 mile warranty on it, to assist in your braking. Yep.
This is loaded maybe, but where do we see the Solus entering our lineup? Is it a new lineup or is it?
I think it's a new segment. Because you have the capability for additional sleeping with some great exterior features depending upon if you are going up in the slope skiing or if you're using it beach or seaside, because there's so much flexibility with that rear annex. It's also really built to be a more durable vehicle in terms of how the cabinetry is designed, how it's,
The flooring.
Yeah, the flooring, thank you. I just think that it is really built to be a much more rugged vehicle with kind of the underscore being simplicity. Very, very high quality, but very simple to use in all aspects, whether it be the freshwater system, the electronics, very simple to use, very family friendly, very friendly to use if you go up in the slopes or if you go seaside.
And really a friendly price point. It might even be a friendly price point for some Rebel buyers potentially that want that type of
if you don't have a real high demand for four-wheel drive, it's going to be a great alternative at a much more affordable price point.
Dean is wondering which units have tire pressure monitoring systems.
Great question. So with respect to the three that we have here, the Ram ProMaster in the Winnebago Travato has integrated tire pressure monitoring from Ram ProMaster, as does the Revel, and that's primarily because of the series of chassis that it is. So when you go up to a 3500 style series, like in the Sprinter van lineup, they're not required to include integrated tire pressure monitoring. A very simple workaround though is we can set up any type of a tire minder system. We use a lot of tire minder here at the dealership based on its proven reliability to provide tire pressure monitoring to a coach like the Bolt or the Era or any of our Class Bs and Cs.
On the Travato, can you get a bike rack and a spare tire on the back?
You can. Yep, the guest that left yesterday had it.
Why does only one of the floor plans in a Travato come with a convection microwave?
Good question.
And can you add it?
I'm sorry?
And can you add it?
Well, anything can be done. You're going to have to get pretty creative. But in the 59K, it's available with the convection microwave. The G, it is a microwave only, and the reason for it is the depth that is available in that location for the blower fan for a convection microwave.
In a Revel, can I leave water in the tank even if I'm not using it? Will it freeze?
So long as you leave that S-bar heater running, that freshwater tank is encapsulated in a surrounding that includes the glycol lines. So you absolutely could, but you would need to leave the S-bar heater system running so that it doesn't freeze. Great question.
I have one more question, which is just a fuel economy comparison amongst our offerings.
Okay, so with respect to the ProMaster chassis, a lot of our guests are experiencing right around 18 miles per gallon. With respect to the Mercedes lineup, you'll see it increase a little bit higher. 18 to 22 is a pretty good range on the Sprinter lineup. With respect to the ProMaster chassis, 18 is a pretty good rule of thumb. We see some guests experiencing a little bit better fuel economy. 16 to 22 is kind of a pretty good range. Motor Trend magazine rates this at 18 and rates the Sprinters at 18 to 22, if that's a factual source. I believe factual sources when somebody tells me that's what I get.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's RPM predicative, so depending upon how heavy your foot is and what RPMs you're running at.
On our website, Rusty's wondering, can you explain how the bike rack and the tire mount fit on the Travato at the same time?
Yeah, so what the guest did that left yesterday actually attached the spare tire to the actual ladder itself. But there's a couple of different ways you can do it. Depending upon if you're okay with the look, some people have put it on the front end. We've had people put a spare tire up on the cargo rack. You can use a hitch mount style that swivels away. There's a lot of different options.
There are a lot of options,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a growing segment in terms of
It
attachments.
is, but it's a great question if you have the luggage rack with the ladder and then you also have the bike rack. So basically your entire rear is covered with bike rack and ladder. The guest that left yesterday attached it to their bike rack, or excuse me, to their ladder. But again, we've done hitch, roof, and some people have even done it on the front bumper.
We're real versatile.
Yeah.
You did it. That's it.
So great questions today. Wow. We really appreciate that opportunity to interact with you live today as we broadcast here in our marketing studio with all of the camper vans in Winnebago's current lineup being manufactured and shipped today. So the Winnebago Bolt, the Winnebago Revel, and the Winnebago Travato. So thank you for all of those great questions. Also keep in mind, if there is something specific that you want to see, you can always work with any of our factory trained sales consultants where we can go live in a heartbeat and show you in full high definition video anything that you want to see on any of our in-stock RVs here at Lichtsinn RV. So again, thank you for all joining us today across our channel, Lichtsinn.com, on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live, and also for our Twitter followers on Periscope. Maggie, Rhonda, Hope, thank you, and Heidi, thank you as always for moderating our chat. Where today we covered the most frequently asked questions and took all of your questions live across the camper van lineup from Winnebago Industries here at Lichtsinn RV.